In today's video, how to have a six-pack by summer. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paul Ravella from ProPhysique.com. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to have a six-pack by summer. What exercises should you be doing to make sure that those abdominal muscles are really popping by the time you get the body fat off? And how do we get the body fat off? What kind of cardio? How long should you be doing cardio for? How do you create a caloric deficit? What should your calories be to lose body fat, to get rid of that lower stubborn belly fat? And the question came from right here on my Instagram direct message. So if you guys would like, send me a direct message. I'll read it and we'll talk about it. I'm 5'5", 167 pounds at this moment. I was 173 when I started this journey 4 months ago. I just got into tracking my macros about 2 months ago at 170 protein, 268 carbs, 83 fats. My goal is to have a six-pack abs by the summer. I lift weights 5 times a week, push-pull leg split, and I do about 65 minutes of cardio 4 to 5 times a week, 1,000 calories on the treadmill. When I started, I made small chances and kept progressing through the weeks to where I'm at now. Well, first of all, thank you for the wonderful question, and I really want to address how you get from where you are now to where you have, let's say, some six-pack abs for the summer. But first of all, I want to commend you for your approach. You have a very well-balanced approach, and the one thing I want to address first is that you really should not do things drastically to get to this place where you have six-pack abs. Why? Because being lean is a very, very difficult place to be. It's hard for our minds, it's hard on our bodies. So how we get lean is going to have a huge impact on if we're able to sustain it. If you use a crash diet, if you use these extreme type of diets where you can't see yourself doing it for a long period of time, I promise you what's going to happen is you're going to reach your goal, you're going to rebound, you're going to put on more body fat than you've ever had, and you're just going to be miserable. So let's talk about your progress here. So I like where your calories are at. You have nice macros, your protein, your carbs, your fats are all in a very good place. However, what I see here is that you're doing a lot of cardio to offset those calories. So I might suggest that we, instead of eating 2,500 calories a day, bring your calories down some to allow you to do a little bit less cardio. Now, there is a balance there because if you really enjoy cardio, well, that's one great way to burn some calories. So you have to find the way that works best for you. Some people will preach low calorie dieting. Some people are hyperactive and they can eat a bit more. So finding the place that you can be sustainable is the greatest way to do it possible. What I would do in your situation is I would bring my calories down to 2,200 and then once a week or twice a week be doing a higher carb refeed day, where refeeds are essentially going to be a higher carbohydrate intake, a little bit less fats. That way we're kind of keeping our calories around the 2,600 mark, but with an emphasis on carbohydrates for glycogen, for training, for retaining muscle. That's right, you retain more muscle when you use carbohydrates during a fat loss phase, especially for things like performance in the gym. Now, how long to diet? The goal here, as I coach people, should be around 1% of your body weight per week. So if you're around 170 pounds, that's around 1.5 pounds per week. If you're not losing 1.5 pounds per week, you simply increase the caloric deficit. Now, when I have someone start off a diet program, I have them start off using the least amount of cardio possible. If they're doing none, I might simply start them off with 4 days at, say, 15 minutes a session. Then each week as we stall, we might add 5 to 10 minutes per session or simply add a 5th day. This comes down to lifestyle. I look at the entire week as a whole. Some people prefer to do more on the weekends and have the rest of the week because they have a busier work schedule or they're with their kids. So finding the time in your schedule that allows you to be the most effective is going to be very important. But how do we create a caloric deficit? Well, that is a topic that's a little bit more in depth than this video is going to go into. So what I'm going to do is link it below in the description box. I have a video already done called How to Create a Caloric Deficit. It talks about how to find out where your maintenance is and how to track that so that you can create the deficit. Also on my website, ProPhysique.com, I have a free calorie calculator. That's right, you just go on there and you can put in a bunch of information and it's gonna give you an idea where your calories should be for gaining weight, maintaining weight, or getting shredded. Now let's talk about a few of my favorite ab exercises because I grew up playing sports, and the abdominal muscles, while very nice to look at, they have nice aesthetics, actually serve a lot of purpose. I grew up playing sports like baseball, basketball, volleyball, so I was always involved in sports that really required a lot of core engagement, core stabilization. Therefore, I always had abs growing up. It was never something that I felt I had to chase. As I progressed away from playing sports and more into physique sports, what I found is that I really like to train them using progressive overload strategies. The rectus abdominis, the big muscles on the front of our bodies, can really benefit from resistance training just like any other muscle group. You have to be careful about the back, okay? You make sure that you're training intentionally. Big compound movements, such as the squat, the deadlift, anything where you're doing standing overhead, you're going to be engaging your core for stabilization, okay? The transverse abdominis is going to benefit from that. However, if you want your abs to pop, it is necessary to do a few key exercises, in my opinion. My favorite of which would be a decline sit-up. A sit-up performed on a decline bench, and you reach your hands to touch the ceiling. Now this exercise, you can start slow. Sometimes just a few reps is all you need to really feel it engage. But the nice thing about this movement is that you can progress over time. You can get to the point where you can do 3, 4, 5 sets of 10 to 15, and as needed, you can grab a weight and hold it over your head as well. Another great way to progress. My next favorite exercise would be some variation of a hanging leg raise. Either you have a Roman chair or you can just grab a pull-up bar and bring your abdominals up. Again, this is going to engage the entire core. A little bit more emphasis on the lower abs, okay, because you're pulling from the bottom, but you're gonna feel it in the entire abdominal wall. Depending on how high you bring your hips up, you can really start to engage even things like the obliques and upper abs. Those two are the crux and the bread and butter of my core building movements. Now, I do love a few other exercises. One would be a cable crunch, meaning you grab the cables over your head and you crunch. The reason I like this is because there is no stress being placed on the body. You are pulling only with the core and releasing. This is similar to what might be like an ab crunch. And sometimes I'll even perform those with my back on a Swiss ball. I really enjoy just feeling the burn. But when I'm training abs, I'm generally focused on progressively overloading them or training them with some resistance so that they're going to pop a little more. Yes, we all have abdominal muscles, but they can also always be a little bit more prominent if you train them like you train the other body parts. Now, I typically suggest 2 days a week, maybe 3 if you really enjoy training the abs. It also depends on how you're training around abdominals. If you're doing a lot of compound movements, well then perhaps you don't want to overtrain them so that you mess up your performance or risk injury. When to do them? Well, typically I like to do them after a day where I had a particularly tough core workout. If I did something like squats or deadlifts, I like to do them after that. Or if I'm not currently doing a lot of big compounds, I like to actually just have 2 days a week where I'll maybe just go into the gym, do some abs, do some calves, do some cardio, do some things that kind of get forgotten when you're doing a bodybuilding style of training. Now, I don't stay lean enough year round to see a shredded six-pack. I'm pretty fortunate in the fact that I can still see a little bit of my abs even when I'm at my heaviest off-season weight. But I find that staying that lean, even though I love looking down and seeing the lines and the veins in my core, it prevents me from being the best athlete I can be inside the gym regarding performance and strength. So I am constantly focusing on putting on more muscle and then dieting down and getting leaner. Now, that's up to you. How you handle that process is going to dictate kind of what your goals are and how you handle it. But getting lean and getting shredded for the summer is something you should probably be starting now, because it's not going to happen quickly. And if you allow it to happen gradually, you're gonna have a much better time maintaining weight using diet breaks, using refeeds, and reverse dieting to bring your calories back up once you reach that. But making it sustainable is all about using an approach that allows it to happen over a longer period of time versus crashing in, having abs for a very short period of time, and then ending up in a worse place. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for me today. Hopefully you enjoyed those resources. Click subscribe if you enjoy these type of videos, because that's what I love making. Thank you for the great questions, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.